Hello, everyone, and welcome to Level Up Law, where we here at South Carolina Legal Services are providing webinars in our law practice areas to help you improve not only your basic legal knowledge, but also your ability to help yourself if you don't have a lawyer. I'm attorney Susan Ingles, and in this webinar, I'll be talking about 10 employment and business opportunities that you should be careful of because they may be scams. And we know that a lot of people are out of work right now and may be looking for jobs, so we do want you to be careful out there, and hopefully this information will be helpful. All the participants will be muted, but you can feel free to ask questions in the chat box, and we'll do our best to answer them. Also, after the presentation is over, we will be sharing the slides with you from this presentation by email, and so you'll have those to refer to after the broadcast. And also, I just want to mention that on the last slide, we will have all of the information for connecting with South Carolina Legal Services and the online legal resources that we have available to you. So let's get started. So if you're looking for a job or a business opportunity or guaranteed income, we don't want you to run off the road when you're looking for those. So steer clear of some of these schemes that we're going to be talking about that promise money but don't always deliver. The first one is envelope stuffing schemes. Now, these are job offers that say, oh, it's very easy, you can do it from home, just stuff these envelopes and you'll make lots of money. But in fact, you end up not having anyone to stuff the envelopes for, or you've spent money on envelopes or some sort of equipment, and then there's nobody to stuff envelopes for. So just be careful about that as a way to earn money. Telemarketing resale scams. These are alleged opportunities where you're going to be allegedly selling brand name merchandise from home. And it seems like, wow, that's great. But you know, sometimes that's something that you can do on your own through eBay and Facebook, some of those other resources, without doing it through someone else. Because if you're doing it through someone else, you really don't have any control over it, and you end up not making any money, and they make money from you. Internet businesses are very popular today, and that's number 3. And amazingly, these fraudsters will say, oh, you can earn thousands of dollars with your own internet business. All you have to do is use our expert coaches, and it's just a very small price to pay for all of the money that you're going to earn. Well, once you pay, you don't know exactly what you're going to be getting, and quite often you just get a manual or someone who is supposedly a coach but doesn't really have any particular expertise. And then quite often you start the business, and then the company that you're working through says, well, you're really not going to earn that much money unless you go to the next level. And that always, or typically, involves paying more money, and you still so often just get the same result. So when you do this and you invest money in what's supposed to be an internet business that's going to earn you thousands of dollars, quite often you're left with nothing but debt and nobody to recover your money from. Number 4 is assembly or craft work. Now this is where you have an offer to assemble something in your home. And again, these home business opportunities are so alluring because you can do it at home, you don't have to have transportation, you don't have to go anywhere, but so often you have to purchase equipment. For example, right now, there's lots of ways for people to get masks to protect themselves from the virus. And there's lots of people out there making them and providing them for free. So this would be something that you would want to avoid, where in a climate like this is where scammers and fraudsters really come out of the woodwork, and they'll say, oh, you can make these and make just a little bit of money, but you'll need this big sewing machine, or you'll need this particular kind of material. And so you buy those, and then it turns out that they're not paying you, and you will potentially end up just giving the masks away, maybe selling them, but you're probably never going to make back the money that you invested in that equipment. So that's one example of how doing some kind of assembly or craft work at home can catch you unawares. Rebate processing. This is a promise to make money by helping a company process their rebates. And most often it does involve, again, as with many of these, some kind of certification or training so that you can learn how to process these rebates. And so you're supposedly going to get certified by some, expert that does this all the time, and they're going to show you how to succeed just like Jane Doe did. Well, quite often, as we say here, you get nothing but a poorly written training manual and no help at all. And after you've bought this material or paid for a certification, and you're expecting all these rebates to be coming to you from this company so that you can process them, no rebates come, and there's no processing to do. And so you're left with having paid for training that you aren't going to be using, and also quite often no way to find the company in order to get your money back. And I think that's a problem with so many of these types of opportunities, that so many things are online and you don't really know where they're located. So we always need to think about that. If I have to sue this person to get this money back, or this company to get this money back, where do I go? Where are they located? It's not just an internet address. Number 6, mystery shoppers. Now, there are some legit mystery shopping jobs for sure, but there are also many, many ads out there for mystery shoppers that are just scams. And so you have to be really careful and do your research and know what you're getting into. Make sure it's some company that you recognize the name of. So they might, again, with mystery shopping, you may have to get some worthless certification. You have to pay for a directory, or some kind of job guarantee. And often, and we'll talk about fake check scams more in a minute, but often with the mystery shopping, they are including asking you to make a deposit in your bank account and then maybe hand out gift cards and those kind of things. And it turns out that the money that they give you, or the check that they give you, will ultimately be a fake check, but it takes a while sometimes for a bank to go through that process and determine that it's a fake check, and then you're responsible for that money. So you should never have to pay to become a mystery shopper. That should be a job where they pay you. Multi-level marketing. Again, this is an area where there are some legit companies, but you really do have to be careful because it can be a problem for you. These are usually selling products to the public, and it should be really by word of mouth and by direct sales to the public. So in a legitimate multi-level marketing business, you earn commissions for the products you sell and for sales by the people that you recruit to also be salespeople with you. So that's fine until they start to promote how much money you'll make, how you'll be leading this luxurious lifestyle, you'll be able to quit your job. Most often those claims aren't real, and definitely don't quit your day job until you've been doing it a while and you see that you're really making money. Always ask for written information about how much money most people do make from this kind of a business that you're getting into. And if you don't get good information, or they say, oh, we're not allowed to give that out because it's private information, or they have some reason for not providing you with that information, then you really shouldn't get into it, because they should, if it's so great, they should be willing to provide you that information. And they certainly don't have to give names or other private information to be able to give you some truthful statistics about what that opportunity might bring to you. And one last point you see here at the bottom of the slide, and that is that they quite often, multi-level marketing folks will say the only way to really make money is to get new participants as opposed to making sales. And so when that becomes the focus, then you've probably got a problem, because it's more like a pyramid scheme than multi-level marketing. So there are some good ones out there where you can make money, but you have to be super careful and make sure that you're not going to be spending more money than you could earn. Invention promotion firms. You know, when you're in a struggle with your employment, like so many people are right now, you may have some great idea, some invention that you have been thinking about making money on. Well, there's lots of promotions for helping you, for helping you with making that dream a reality, getting a patent on your invention and so forth. But of course, you have to pay for that. And you don't want to get into a business arrangement with someone who's promising that you'll get a patent or promising that you'll make money with your idea, because they're just in the business to take your money, and maybe you'll end up with the patent and maybe you won't. So, you know, you need to really use a legit patent firm in order to do that. And one last point on that, not every invention, not every product needs a patent in order to make money. So sometimes you want to see how that item works before you start worrying about getting a patent on it and pursuing more, making more money with it. Medical billing business. Now, this is one that you see ads for quite a bit. And the medical billing business is pretty competitive. And so you need to be very careful about who you're dealing with, because if you're using a company that's not legit or not really providing you what you need to make a business like this work, then you're going to get out into that medical billing business world and you'll have no customers. They might promise you a customer list, but sometimes that's just a list of doctors that they got out of a phone book. It's not actual medical providers who are looking for someone to do their medical billing for them. One of the things about this kind of scam is that you have to buy that equipment, you buy that list, you buy software to process the claim. So quite often there can be a pretty big investment on the front end for you, and if that's the case, you really want to consider, am I really going to be able to make more money than I'm putting out? And do I really have this money to put out? If I'm in need of income, do I really want to put the money that I do have in savings or that you might borrow? Do I really want to do that for a business that there's really no guarantee will be successful? And number 10, the money mule scam. And this is one we talked about a little bit already. But this and many of these other business opportunities and jobs that are not legitimate find people on the websites where you're looking for a job. And sometimes they're listed on those websites and are kind of disguised as a really legitimate business or a really legitimate job. So be really careful. Quite often they will call themselves a sales company, or the job will be a sales opportunity. And it really is just one of these 10 things. So the money mule scam is this: you're the mule that's carrying the money. So it starts with several types of fact situations where they might be offering you a job, they say you've won a sweepstakes, or the one that we see quite a lot of, an online romance relationship or some other kind of online relationship. And next thing you know, they say, well, I want to send you some money, and then can you then wire the money or buy gift cards with it? But what happens is you get a check, you deposit in your bank account, and then you send the money where they direct you to send it. And then 2 weeks later, you find out that the check was a fake and your bank's wanting the money back. And unfortunately, it's not really an excuse to say, well, gee, I got scammed. That's not the bank's problem. They're going to want you to replenish that money into your account. So definitely be wary of the money mule scams. So that's the top 10, but they're not the only ones. And so let's talk a little bit about the business opportunity rule, and then we'll talk about some ways that you can avoid getting into these bad employment and business opportunities. Now, the business opportunity rule is a rule that is enforced by the Federal Trade Commission. And basically, it helps us as consumers to be able to really evaluate whether a particular opportunity is risky. It does 3 things. It requires the seller of a business opportunity to provide a disclosure with important facts about the business. Number 2, it requires specific disclosures if the company is saying that you're going to make a certain amount of money. So if they say, you can make $1,000 a month, they've got to back that up with some earnings disclosures. And then finally, they make clear in the business opportunity rules certain practices that are just simply not allowed. So let's talk about those in just a little bit more detail. The disclosure document that is required, and it is required that you get it 7 days before you sign a contract or pay anything. And the sellers know that, but keep in mind, as I mentioned before, you need to know who you're dealing with, because if it turns out that their disclosure was false and you can't find them to try to get your money back, then the disclosure, doesn't matter that they gave it to you or didn't give it to you or gave you a false one if you can't find them to enforce it. So be sure you know who you're dealing with. The disclosure document has to identify who the seller is, and that should include an address, and you should check out that address. Don't just assume that it's a true address. It should tell you about any lawsuits or other legal actions that have involved this company in the past. It should disclose if there's a cancellation or refund policy. And again, if it makes an earnings claim, it tells you that they're going to give you another document that's available to provide some details about that information. And then lastly, they must give you references. Now, the earnings claim statement. This is important because so many of these companies will sort of reel you in by saying how much money you're going to make. And these times, if you don't have a job, or you're only working part-time, or you've been laid off, maybe you're on unemployment, but you need more than that's providing, those big earnings sound really great, and you might jump into something too quickly. So be sure and ask for that earnings claim statement, and if they say they don't have it or they can't provide it for some reason, then you shouldn't do that deal. Here's what it has to include: the name and date, the name of the person making the claim and the date. What are the specifics of the claim that they are making? The start and end date of the earnings, the number and percentage of people who got those results, like the $1,000 a month result. So people, the number of people who got that or more. Any information about those people that might be different from you. Here, the example is mentioned. It might be a part of the country where they live. It could be people between the ages of 18 and 25 make more or make less. It could be that people between the ages of 50 and 65 make more or less. So anything like that that might be particular to you, where you live, who you are, what your age is, and that sort of thing, they need to let you know that. And then finally, a statement that you can get written proof of what they're claiming the earnings are. So in other words, you can ask for like a specific breakdown or data sheet that tells you what that is. And again, if they're not willing to provide it, then that's probably a business opportunity or a job opportunity that you want to avoid. And then finally, these are the things that are against the law under the revised business opportunity rule. They can't say anything different than what is in their disclosure statement. This happens with all kinds of contracts. This can happen when you go buy a car. A salesman says one thing, but the paper that you sign may say another. It's so important to read that. But you need to be able to rely on the written document that they're giving you. Also, they can't claim that they're offering you a job for pay when what it really is promoting a business opportunity, like some of the ones that we just reviewed. Assembling something in your home, that's not really a job they're going to be paying you an hourly rate for or a salary for. That's really a business opportunity where you're going to be doing your own business in your home. So they must disclose that, or they're not allowed to do that. But again, you got to be able to find them if it turns out that that's what they've done and they've misled you. Finally, they can't misrepresent the nature of the investment that you're making. So if they claim that they're going to provide something, you're going to pay them money, they're going to give you a list of customers, then they can't misrepresent that. They can't say, oh, we're going to give you a list of customers, and then they never give it to you, or it turns out to just be a fake list. Okay, and so here's just some things that you can do to add that extra layer of protection before you get into one of these things. As I've already said, study those documents that they're required to provide for you. Make them give them to you and study them. Really read them. And if they don't make sense, then get somebody else to look at it. You want to see that proof in writing of the earnings claims and what they say you're going to get out of this opportunity. You get some names of other people who have done the same thing and ask them questions about what their experience has been. Did they get the same disclosures? Are they making the money that was promised? If you go to an event where a sales presentation is being made about this type of an opportunity, listen real closely and be critical. Don't go into it thinking what a great opportunity it is. Go into it being skeptical. And that way you'll probably learn the important things that you need to know before getting into that particular business. And you'll realize in quite a lot of cases that you're just being sold something. again, as I've already mentioned, if they won't give you information that you're asking for, and they have some reason, which is usually fake, it might sound legit, but it's usually not, you should just walk away. Just don't get into it, because this is not somebody that's really being upfront with you. Obviously, you can consider getting professional advice, a lawyer, accountant, and so forth. You know, at South Carolina Legal Services, we assist people with contract situations and other types of matters involving these things that we're talking about today. So you can certainly always, you know, contact us and apply for our assistance. And also, just get somebody else to read the paperwork. You know, sometimes your eyes will just start to glaze over when you're reading a business document, and you start to really lose focus on what it is that it's saying, what information it's providing. So sometimes if you get a, you know, a friend or a family member, someone to look at it for you, then they will perhaps see something or notice something that maybe you and your excitement about the business opportunity didn't really notice. So that's always a good one as well. The FTC suggests that you call your state offices here. In South Carolina, we have the South Carolina Department of Consumer Affairs, which is a great government agency that really provides a lot of assistance to folks. Attorney General's office, the Better Business Bureau, and there's other places like that. Our Secretary of State keeps an eye on businesses to make sure that they're legit, and so sometimes you can find good information there. You might be looking to see if there's been any complaints about the business, and just keep in mind that there's really, just because there's not any complaints doesn't mean that it's a legit business. I think sometimes people will call the Better Business Bureau and say, well, there's been no complaints. Well, that doesn't mean that people don't have complaints. They just haven't made them yet. And so finally, finally, this is the information for South Carolina Legal Services. All of our online resources, how to apply for our assistance in a legal matter. You can apply by telephone or online at our website, and that information is provided here, and it'll be in the slides that we email to you. And a couple of other things, we do have online classrooms at learnthelaw.org, and those are on different legal topics to sort of help you walk through what you might need to know before you go to court if you're having to represent yourself. Those can be very helpful. And then also, we have quite a bit of information on our YouTube channel, a lot of videos and audio, particularly a nice playlist of audio that is particular to what we're going through right now with the legal ramifications of the COVID-19 virus and shutdown and those sorts of things. I would also just mention that with hurricane season coming up here in South Carolina, we have just started releasing some animated videos that talk about all the different things you need to know when it comes to damage from hurricanes, tornadoes, floods, all those kind of natural disasters. It includes information on FEMA applications for assistance and appeals, also information about scams, documentation that you need, how to handle issues with your landlord or your insurance. So a lot of great information. Just go to our Law Help website. You see that here on this slide, lawhelp.org/SC. You can find that there. You can also find it through our regular website. So I'm just going to check right quick and see if there are any questions. And I don't see any. If anybody does want to ask a question right now, please go ahead. If not, once you get the slides, if you have any questions, again, check out our resources. And I just want to thank everybody for being here today. This is the first webinar we've had in our Level Up Law series, and so we hope you'll continue to check in with us as we provide these little snippets of legal information to help out the people of South Carolina. Be sure to join us next time which will be June 23rd. We'll be doing these on Tuesdays at noon. The next one is June 23rd, and Mark Fessler, our Housing Law Unit Head, will be talking about Rent Smart to get you up to speed, level up your knowledge on landlord-tenant law. Thanks, everyone, for joining.